so I've been trying to get this 8th book in the series, the 2nd book in the new series done. And I finally broke through. I don't have y'all ever had this thing where you're writing and you have like a stall where you're every time you read it, you end up going back in it and, finessing this one little thing, trying to work out this one little place. And you just stay there for like 2 weeks, just on this 1 or 2 paragraphs. That's just, and it's not frustrating, but it's hard because I know that it's missing a piece, like a puzzle. And that's it. It's like you're sitting there looking at it going, where's the puzzle piece? What am I missing? And it's not that I don't like it. It's that there's something different. And I actually have to find it, and once you see it, all of a sudden you're like, yay. And so I finally broke through. I think it was on Thursday or Friday night. And I finally broke through the barrier and was able to close out the first half of the book. Oh, and good. So but it was like, oh my gosh, it was so intense.
Yeah, sometimes I'm stuck in a spot like that, and I keep thinking maybe that's subconsciously what I'm doing. I'm missing a piece from like that scene, but I'm not sure what I feel more stuck. I don't know. I'm not sure how to transition, and I'll sit there and refine like the last chapter until it's like I keep thinking if I just go through and start refining, it'll just flow and I'll break through, and eventually I do. But maybe now that you say that, maybe that's what I've been doing without realizing it, is something down subconsciously realized I was missing a piece before I could continue.
Yeah, you go back in. And I know. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
What's up, guys?
What's up? Hey, Storm. I love you.
Oh, Christian, how far have you got through your short story?
Through my short story?
Yeah.
Oh, for Shalar or for something else?
For the other thing.
The other thing.
I've gone through a little bit. I deleted a couple of pages, but not very far. I'm having trouble. I've never written horror before, and I'm having a lot of trouble keeping it straight.
Oh my gosh.
This particular story is horror. Yeah.
Hold up. Are you talking about the innocent tribe of the Whites?
Oh, the Whites? No. There are horror elements in that. No, I've just been compiling my notes from different sources for that. But no, I was talking about Harlequin, an Iron Age media prompt that I was working on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I want to.
Please excuse me for one moment.
You go for it, dude. You go for it.
Excused.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah, it's okay. No, I missed this. I've been working on a Christmas project. Actually, Katie with Periapsis Press.
Oh, you're gonna contribute to that?
Yeah. Yeah, she asked one, and I wrote that story as well this week, and so I had to sort of break off of Watcher to do that. And that's the first time I've done that in a while, and it was so weird because I had to shift gears, and then I wrote it and I started crying because it made me sad. I'm like, great job, and suddenly I'm like, I need to get back in the Halloween spirit. I need to do more horror. I love writing horror, but I don't know, mine's not really okay. Y'all, what is the scariest thing to you? Do you actually like the blood and guts type of, oh my gosh, this is horrible? Or did you like the suspense, like the eerie weirdness, like the something
suspense in reading for sure, suspense, because your imagination can fill in the details. Like the less information that you're given as a reader, the better it is. Like you give just enough for it to be
getting ripped in half or their head chopped off or something.
Like if you look at like someone like Lovecraft or Robert E. Howard and the way they wrote short stories, and horror specifically, most of their best work was not when they were hyper specific about things. Like my favorite Robert E. Howard horror story is Dream Snake, for anyone who's read that.
Ooh, time to go see this.
That story is horrifying. It spooked me.
Dreamscape? Is it
No, Dream Snake. It's based on a real life dream that he had that was recurring, and it was really it's in that one. It's like, it's not specifically about what it is. It's about the feeling, the inescapable and ever consuming doom, and its encroachment on your own life.
Yes.
Have you read Storm of Swords?
No, I'm supposed to be reading it.
Is that the third?
Slight spoiler. There's my actual all-time favorite chapter, and it's like a horror one.
Oh yeah,
where it's essentially you have like our main POV is not even seeing what's going on, but he's listening to what's going on and writing it down like on a fucking paper. So it's like the army of the dead fucking marching on the Fist of the First Men where they're at.
Oh yeah,
and he's just listening to fucking what they're saying is going on.
Oh my gosh.
And then, like, I think a little towards the end, he like sees an undead polar bear rip someone's head off and shit.
No, dude, that might be kind of cool. Yeah, I think that you have to. It has to build up to it. I think when I was slasher fics were really popular when I was younger, and I was like, I don't like seeing people tortured. It really bothers me, and I never wanted to get used to it. That's why I'm saying I'm so scared to read Blood Meridian. And I know that Stormcrow wants to do it, and I'm like, I can't do it. But what slasher is a little different, and then you have things that are more supernatural horror. That, like I said, that shock of the uncanny, of realizing something's wrong, of not knowing why, and
the unknown, the unknown,
yeah. Well,
mysterious aspect.
And I'll admit, I actually liked, and a lot of people ragging. I actually liked the Sixth Sense, because I know somewhat about that. I'm not going to go into a bunch of details, but my family has what they call second sight. We always just accepted it, so we would talk about it like it was no big deal. Nobody's like, all goth or anything like this. Like, Mom saw something today, and she's like, I'm going to go figure out what this is. And she was just that way. She would just warn you, hey, you're going to grow up, you're going to see stuff, just talk to somebody when you do and make sure. And so we just grew up, knowing, hey, Mom, Grandma saw ghosts. I don't know if other families have that sort of thing. But there are a lot of Hawaiian families have stuff like that. Okay, cool. So I don't feel so alone, because there was a lot of Irish and Scottish in our family, and they would say, like, you can see the veil between the worlds, and so you can actually feel people on the other side. You'll see your ancestors and things real close.
Oh, so tomorrow is going to be a lot of fun for you, and I would imagine May 1st is just as much fun.
Beltane, but yeah, no, I have a tendency to Saturday Beltane. I always, I don't try to look for stuff. If it happens, it happens, and I'm cool. But so when you know what that feels like, to turn around and you realize there's something thin in the fabric of time before you, and you are reaching forward and back into a space where somebody may not be expecting you, or there's something looking for you, somebody, and you're like, what is this? And I have to, and you don't want to go fooling around with stuff you're not supposed to fool around. It's very specific in the Bible. Don't go looking for stuff,
No.
Now, if he comes and finds you, you do go take him straight to Jesus. You just like, hey, I got a guy. Come on, let's go.
Well, it's not. They're not. To bring up a point, it's not always bad either.
Yeah, it's not always bad.
I've seen some stuff, and I can talk about that.
Oh, dude,
I promised Andy I'll talk to him about that, but you and I should talk about that sometimes too.
It's Halloween. Come on, man. No, you do it with respect. And it always has to be on respect, and also with respect for the privacy of whoever it is that's talking to you. And so there's this weirdness about it that transcends just, I saw a bloody body. And like, because I've been an EMT, I've seen some pretty terrible things. I actually have we call it walking with the dead in our family. I'm always the person that sits with the dead bodies. We'll pull them out, and they're in terrible shape, and you can tell this person's passed. But we never like to leave people alone as EMTs, even if we know they're passed. We know that there's a space between life and death where people are still experiencing the world around them. And
I knew that was and that is cold to feel.
I didn't know that was an EMT thing also.
Yes, it is. And there's a space between life and death. The brain is still active. You may think this person is passed, but they can still hear. My husband actually went through that when he was on life support. He could hear me, couldn't see me or feel me. And he was very close to death at that time. He had stopped breathing, was very sick. And so we talk about walkers between the worlds. You walk with the dead as they go through this process. You stay with them as the body cools. And it's about it when they've done it with work on brain wave activity. It's usually around 15 to 20 minutes. If there's not something that immediately just smashes the life out, and that can happen where life's not sustainable. But when you have let's say something happens and a person's bleeding to death, or their heart stops beating and the rest of the body is still sort of progressing through it, they estimate it could be 15 minutes where you have this period of the body continuing to shut down its little features and doing things. And so I'm the one that stays with the dead. And people have just always done it for me, and they know I'm not afraid. And there'll be a person that's literally unable to sustain life. They're missing parts, or something terrible has happened, or they've been found, even if they've been found sometimes weeks later. I had one guy that was 2 or 3 weeks into the process, and he wasn't in any good shape. But there is a place in that spirit experience where that fabric between the living and the dead is very thin. And
there's medical death, and then there's true death.
Yes,
and
that's right.
The line is not usually in the same place where that is drawn. And like obviously, like there are stories of people who were medically dead and came back, and a mentor of mine who went to school with my dad actually had that. I think twice actually. Yeah, like he was dead for 25 minutes one time,
Holy
and then
cow.
came back, and he's like, "Oh, praise Jesus! It was a good time up there, but I'm back."
Dude, that is so. It's so crazy when you see this happen, and I think that when you realize, and that's the thing, and Tim Allen was talking about some of that dark stuff with the Necronomicon and stuff like that. I think because my family, it was considered sacred actually, so we never had this thing that you would, if you were, it was part of you who you are to experience this, and you are experiencing people that have loved ones have gone before to to heaven, or there may be some reason that they're here that they don't know, they're stuck or whatever. And so you actually take them to God. You're like, you take them to do. I have this thing in my life. I want to talk to you about it. And and it's a really strange place to be because it acted as if it was normal. So that kind of horror of turning around and you realize that a body is leaving, that a human being is leaving this earth, is a different kind of place to be than the part where you turn around and the house is empty and you see a pair of red sneakers go around a corner, but nobody's been home for hours, or you go into the backyard and suddenly it looks different than it did, and you realize this is 40 years ago. The grass is short, and there's a little tree in the backyard where the big one stands now.
Or you wake up and there's someone in bed with you that doesn't belong there.
Well, that's usually, I have tried not to drink that much, but that's when you go. I'm so sorry. No, but when you wake up and there's someone standing, and you know that they're there, but you don't know why, and they're not physically there. And what's really weird is that my mother would actually confirm. She would say there was something in the house yesterday, and I'd be like, yes. And we talked afterwards, and when she first talked about it, she didn't really want to say anything to me, and then she was like, there's something here, and I'm like, yeah, I know. It's like I was an adult at the time. She's like, there's something in this house. I'm like, I know already. We got to get out of here. But it was crazy. It was crazy, and so it is really different. And that horror of the horror is compounded by, you don't know if you need to reach out or not. And I said, scripture is very specific. If I'm a preacher's wife, scripture is really specific about, you don't go hunting stuff down you don't need to touch.
Nope.
You don't go disturbing the dead. But if they come to you, you're supposed to pray for them and do all this kind of stuff. And so that's just the way my family's always been. So there's that horror there of not knowing what to do next. Of not knowing.
I've never encountered the dead. I've encountered spirits, but never the dead that I could see anyway, or that I could identify as.
Well, that could be kind of tricky. Is that spirit someone who used to inhabit a human body, or is that spirit someone who's just always been a different form? There's many entities out there. There's a lot more to reality than we can experience with just our senses.
Well, and once again, when we look at, let's go back, because Redoubt and we love history, and I'm huge on lore, and I know that Billy Bob's into lore too. This thing where we go out there and we seek the lore of ancestors. You go back all the way through. I mean, we can go back to the Vedas, and there, the Ayurvedic Vedas, and there's stories of people encountering what seemed like spirits or the Fae or other things, and we have different names for it. But every society has these, just like every society has stories about romance and love. There are things that are universally the hero's journey, and there are things that are not of this world, creatures that are different than us. Some are malevolent, and others are kind. But we only have so much real estate in our brain, and we can only see certain colors. We can only hear certain sounds. Is it just that it's just beyond our pale? Is it just beyond our ability to process the information?
Yeah. Well, really, and like even in the purely physical aspect of it, there are people who can see the exact detail, exact shades of color in a way that almost nobody else can. And then you have people who can either not see any color or not. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
The only time I've seen demons or spirits was when I was in Peru under ayahuasca.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I've heard stuff. I've heard about that.
I haven't seen spirits and entities in quite some time, and you know what? I'm good with that. I barely get along with the living. The dead don't want to mess with me either.
I will
Like,
say
dude,
that,
you need help? Go find a preacher or something. I
well,
could
that's the
barely talk to
problem.
my own
I'm at the church, and so my church is
family.
100 years old. Is built from parts that were 140 years old, and so I see the doors open sometimes, or you get a feeling of somebody you have known maybe, or there's somebody there. In fact, that's in the story in Christian Kahuna. It's actually, it's a real place. It's my church, and it's really there. And no, dude, it's real. I could actually show you photos. And that thing where where Rose hears the piano playing, I've heard it. Where the piano plays, and and it's beautiful, but you're crying in the bathroom and nobody's there. You're just gonna sit there for a little bit, let Miss Bessie finish playing, because she was there 40 years ago. She's still playing the piano. And then there's the parts where you do encounter something evil and you don't know how to describe it. Probably the most terrifying encounter I ever had, as far as a spiritual encounter, was actually with a woman who was battling addiction, and addiction recovery program. And it wasn't the drugs that we're talking, and I don't know how to describe it, but she reached over to grab my hand, and her eyes just became completely black all the way down, and her face was so sad, but her eyes. I told my husband afterwards, and we actually prayed with this woman. I prayed with her as hard as I could. And I told her, and she was like, well, I can't do this. And she walked away. And I told my husband, I said, I've encountered something I've never encountered before, and it's frightening.
She wasn't alone.
No, she absolutely was not.
No.
And I was actually afraid to let her go. I was afraid. And she did have a friend that walked up at that point, and I was like, do you need help? And she's like, no, I'll find something. I'll do something. But she was so deep in that addiction. But to see something that was different than just, hey, I know what meth looks like, when they look in your eyes and it's crazy, or when somebody's so deep into alcoholism that you don't feel like you can ever pull them out, to be begging for somebody just to surface long enough that you can talk to them is a tough place to be. But when we experience the true horror of knowing that there's something more, it's like I talk about the demon that stalks my family called alcoholism. That has always seems to be there, and it regularly seals people I love from me. They die because they can't seem to stop drinking, and we do everything we can. And it's had a profound impact on my life and on my writing. And did
that influence the watcher being addicted to the stuff?
Yes, absolutely, it did. That's just in my personal experience as someone who loves a person who had been addicted. To watch what they go through, to know that there is a double-pronged act. We have to have the will to want to survive, to try to get rid of the poison that is killing us. But we also have to realize that sometimes it is a fight that is greater than anything we have ever faced, because these terrible things have been with us all along. And so that horror combining with the supernatural, where you realize maybe there is a place where really there is some evil entity that just goes, you know what, I just love destroying this family's life. And you start to get to where you're like praying Jesus. Everybody, they go out to a party, you're like, don't do it, just don't tonight, don't let it happen, and dude, it's a tough place to be. And that horror, like I said, that straddles the line between the real world and the spiritual world, when you watch them walk away and you're like, somebody's waiting out there, something somewhere that just loves nothing better than to destroy a life. And
that
you can also get that experience by RH Snow.
What was that, dear?
Get too high, smoke a joint, get too high, get paranoid.
Do you really? See, with my family, we actually have a big problem with paranoia and weed. And other people can, they can take a hit and nothing seems to really take place for them. We're magical fairies, buddy. I'm telling you right now, it's like kryptonite for us. Weed, drugs.
Didn't you say you're like part hobbit or something?
I am. I know I am. I'm only 4'11". I've had people say, "Oh, you're one of them," and then that was how hippies would always find me. They would say, "Oh, you're a fairy, one of them," and I'd be like, "That's kind of cool, but weird at the same time." And
it looks
don't
like
take this as an insult. Do not take this as an insult. But what is the height of a midget supposed to be considered?
4'10". I am exactly 1 inch taller, but that's only because That's my grown height, which means that because I lied for years, I would say 5 feet tall just so I could get into that normative area. Yeah, actually, I'm okay. I'm gonna shrink. I'm 61. They're gonna have me in a booster seat before long. I won't even be able to drive. And so, I mean, if I shrink, I'm gonna be in the little people territory. And
No, we can't. We can get you them little. There's little tiny cars.
Yeah, that's that little meep meep.
Damn it! You guys realize that means I briefly dated a midget, right?
Yeah, dude. No, hey, midgets are awesome. You can. I can say that from a place of love. I love being a midget. I get my whole family because we're all shorties. I
know there's supposed to be an actual medical difference between a midget and a dwarf.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah, there's a huge difference. Yeah.
Yes.
Larry the Cable Guy said it best though. He said he was dating a midget. He was nuts over her.
Oh.
Wow, dude. Wow, really? Holy crud, y'all. Come on now.